So we've gone from a Canadian accent to a Hull accent to a Hull accent, which I think is scientifically proven to be the most monotonous and least public speaking friendly accent of all. So I keep you perseverance. Yeah, I'll be talking about LinkedIn instead. So as Mike said, I've been Stretcher Director at Present Works. I'm a copywriter by trade, so I've been writing and creating content on various channels for years. I think the Present Works, our whole thing that we do for our clients across industries and B2B is to help them find and engage their audience, which more often than not now is on LinkedIn. Many people love LinkedIn, many people hate LinkedIn, and I just hope today, whether you're a student or you run your own business or look at yourself or part of a wider marketing team, there'll be a few tips you can take away and start to use on a daily basis with LinkedIn. So, why should you care about it? I think these stats are maybe a little bit out of date now, but there's around 600 million people on LinkedIn, of which around 10% are senior influencers or decision makers. So if you're a B2B business, your audience is that. I think that's probably not news. Anyone else at LinkedIn is probably bombarded with sales messages and people using LinkedIn badly. That's not what we're talking about today. Today, I want to help you find ways in which you can leverage the platform that goes and build your profile. So for the sort of building on a lot of what Marissa spoke about earlier. Let's get used to this. So a lot of people we speak to say, well, if we miss all the LinkedIn content, is everyone's posting it, but the stats show that actually at the moment only about 5% of people actively post content on LinkedIn on a regular basis. So you're probably seeing a lot of content from a very small amount of people. So the likelihood is in your industry or your area of influence, you could still get a good competitive advantage over your competitors by using LinkedIn more regularly. And a mistake we see people often make is putting all of the focus on LinkedIn into the company page. However, with the advancements in LinkedIn's ad platform and trying to push people to pay to reach their audience on LinkedIn, company pages just don't work very well anymore. So you might have 10,000 people who follow your page on LinkedIn, which is great. However, in reality, you can post something that'll be for the percentage will actually see the content that you pushed out there. Whereas at the moment, personal profiles are still completely organic. So if you publish content that's good and relevant to your audience, you're much more likely to get the audience you want to see it if you post it on your personal profile on your company page. And this stat just sort of really hammers that home. So if you post something on your company page, only about 3%, or 3% is the average reach within the first 2 hours. So it really doesn't work very well. And why is that? I think from a base level, people do business with people. LinkedIn's built on over some million personal profiles, and I think it gives you greater authenticity. But it says post reach is 100% organic, and the only investment is time. And LinkedIn is still trying to incentivize users to spend more and more time on the platforms. Anything it can do to give you a reason to keep coming back and publishing new and unique content, they will continue to encourage to do so. So I think for your business, it's best to try and build a common strategy that's based upon the expertise of our core team. Again, coming back to what Marissa was saying earlier. And again, just looking at how you compare, so you might have a company page with 5,000 followers. If you just publish an ad, you're probably only going to reach as auction close on a regular basis. Whereas if you can get all of your core team who've all got follow accounts of different levels, publishing on a regular basis, good content, you get a really good snowball effect and get in front of more people regularly. We do this for a number of clients at the moment, and the anecdotal feedback they get from the news and things like that. Once they start a program like this, it's really hell, you're everywhere. I'm just seeing your name all the time on LinkedIn, and it might not be that every single post from every person there so bringing in a lead directly, but it all just adds to it, and it means when your audience is ready to buy, you've got a much better chance of being front of mind. And I think that's something to really bear in mind when you're starting to publish content on LinkedIn. Is most people who are there scrolling through the feed aren't ready to buy from you now. So if you're overly sales, you're just trying to push your product or service with every single post, you're probably going to turn people off, and it's probably a negative effect of what you're trying to achieve. So I think if you do begin to do this, you've got to think about, see it's a more medium or long-term game. You're trying to build up your expertise and authority in a particular area, so when your potential buyer is in the position to buy or looking to find a new supplier, you're there and they will come to you as one of their options. So how do you make it work for you? And to me, there's like 5 key elements of a effective LinkedIn profile. Firstly, making sure the profile itself is well optimized. You've got a nice headshot, you've got a branded header, your description is up to date and sort of describes you in the light that you would like to describe in that. And your career and expertise is also up to date. Also, just sort of engage with the content of others. I think LinkedIn's a social network, not a broadcast network. So if you only go on and publish content yourself and don't engage with anyone else, the algorithm will penalise you a bit and not give your content the reach it should. Obviously, actively growing your network, inviting new connections is also really important. So you're not just talking into an echo chamber, you're always trying to find new people who might end up being customers of yours. Posting content regularly in a variety of formats we'll come on to that a bit more in a minute, but that's obviously one of the key elements of trying to become a thought leader on LinkedIn, and just having momentum. I think the LinkedIn algorithm hates you posting once and then not for a month and coming back. It wants you to post at a consistent rate, ideally once a week or more than that. So to do all this is getting the basics right. I think I mentioned a few of these bits already, and I think Mike said the slides will be shared afterwards, so hopefully it'll be a few to see here, and we'll see what's that. So yeah, growing your network is something a lot of people forget to do, but I think if you don't use LinkedIn a lot at the moment and you're inspired by today to start doing it, I think a really good starting point is to just connect with all of your colleagues, past and present. Look at whenever you win a new client or you're going for a pitch or a new business meeting or something like that, I'd always connect with people before the meeting beforehand. Just to do a little bit of snoop as well, but it's also good to get them on there. Competitors, I find it's always good to connect with just to see what they're doing, and you get any inspiration or how your message is working in comparison to them. And then also, I think once you've gone through that, on a regular basis, trying to look at industries you want to work in and the type of people you'd like to work with in those businesses, and connecting with them prospectively. We've done quite a lot of testing on this with clients, and find if you connect with someone you don't know and put a message in there, you've got a much, the chances of them accepting are much lower. So just send a connection request with no message in and get them to, you want them to see your content ultimately, you're not trying to sell to them there and then. So engaging with others, I mentioned this is really important. I think liking relevant posts, commenting is gold for LinkedIn. So if you're all planning on putting a post out at 11 o'clock in the morning, I always find it's good to go on LinkedIn maybe half an hour before and comment on a few other posts, post your piece and then comment on a few people's posts afterwards as well, and it can really help you reach, because again, you show on LinkedIn that you are an active member of the community and you're not just using it to push your own message. And then sharing relevant posts to your network with added value is also a good way to engage with people's content. And a lot of people who don't use LinkedIn a lot or want to and don't know how to start struggle to get up and running with it. So we produce this little activity schedule to help people who aren't using it habitually to get more used to it and work it into their daily habits. I think every day you should just log in, checking notifications, connection requests and things like that. Every other day, go and engage with the content in your feed, ideally by commenting, and then weekly you can begin to share content produced by other members of your team or colleagues or partners, and then post content of your own. Every couple of weeks, do that connection requests I spoke about, and try and build your network out so your sphere of influence is getting bigger. And then every month, look to follow new hashtags, join groups, and look at your analytics to see how it's going. So I think content creation is probably the hardest piece of it, and it's probably the thing that stops a lot of people from doing it themselves. And so there's a few rules we like put in place. I think one of the main criticisms LinkedIn gets is it's all just ego, people coming on and talking about that hustler mentality, getting up at 5 and doing a full day's work before 9 a.m. And we don't advocate for that at all. I think the people who do best on LinkedIn in the long term are those who are genuine experts in their area, perhaps something truly of value to say. So I definitely prioritise expertise over the ego. I think whenever you're thinking of an idea to post something, I think you should do one of these 3 things, and if it's not, you should question whether you should post it at all, really. So should educate people, inspire them, or challenge them to think differently about the topic. Again, as we mentioned earlier, you don't want to sell too much, and I think if you're in your business, you obviously want people to know the business you work for and the services you provide. But really, if you post in 4 times in a month, I try and do 3, which are more based on the wants and needs of your audience, and then 1 a month, which is a bit more inward looking and talking about something that's happening within your business. And I think a lot of people will just dive in and just start posting random things, which if you wanted to become a thought leader, it can be quite difficult to then become a thought leader in something because you don't really know what that thing is. So I think defining that mission up front about what you want to be famous for and having that at the centre of all the ideas you create is very important. Making sure you're posting in a variety of formats as well, whether they'll just be text posts, which you do really well, images, carousels, videos if you're able to do it, and then occasionally doing articles and things like that is also really important. So you're not just doing the same thing over and over again to keep your audience nice and engaged. And I think the momentum of building and gaining momentum is probably the most important piece of the puzzle. So if you might get really excited and start posting every day, but unless you really have the time to do it and have 200, 300 ideas a year, it's going to be really difficult to keep up that sort of momentum. So I think trying to commit to a frequency that you feel that you're able to keep up, so you can build that momentum and then work up as opposed to starting really fast and then tailing off. And I think, once you started, don't stop. You're on the horse, keep going. And I think some people might post the first couple of things, they don't have a lot of followers, and they might get a lot of engagement. So I think it's really important to not get too disheartened and remember that you're not doing it for results this week. It's a medium or long-term game. And then just remember that everything you put on there is an opportunity to engage potential prospects. I got something a couple of weeks ago that I think I got about 8 likes on it, which is very bad for me, but I got a message off the back of it. Someone who wants the meeting because it resonated with them. It might be that the public engagement doesn't look great, but you never know what you put out there, how that might resonate with someone and get them to come and speak to you. So there's lots and lots of different ways in which you can play the LinkedIn algorithm and helps get your content greater reach, and such as a variety of quick fire tips here from a guy called Richard van der Blom, who's a bit of a LinkedIn guru. Firstly, reply to all comments. So if you posted something and someone's taken the effort to engage with you and reply, firstly, it's probably just nice to reply back to them because they've taken the time to do it. But I think the algorithm loves that two-way dialogue. So I think if you post something, stay close to your phone in the first 12 hours and make sure you're replying quite quickly. So anything you get back in that, it will really help the reach of your post. At the moment, the ideal post length is between 1,200 and 1,600 characters, which is probably longer than you might expect. I think LinkedIn likes to see you can keep your audience reading, so I try and not every post needs to be like that, but in general, I think posts of that length do very well. From a format perspective, slide deck carousels still perform very well. I think there's lots of them on LinkedIn at the moment, so people may start getting a bit bored of them, but at the moment it's still performing great. Video does very well, but obviously it's harder to produce, so I think it's finding ways in which you can do that on a regular basis. Polls do work well, they can be quite divisive, but I think if you've got a good engaged audience and a lot of people are commenting and you're having conversation in your posts, bringing a poll in is probably a good idea. And then multiple picture posts and look galleries work very, very well as well. I don't know why they work better than just a single image, but they seem to perform very well. And on the downward trend, posts with external links. Obviously, LinkedIn is, other than the subscriptions, is mainly now funded by advertising. So if you leave the platform to view a link, you're not going to see any more ads and not going to make any more money. And I find now if I ever put a link in a post, the reach just absolutely tanks. So unless you really, really need to, I try not to direct people off LinkedIn in any of your posts. The celebrate occasion function is something that the platform pushes quite a lot. If you get a promotion or change your job, but we found that the reach for those type of posts is absolutely terrible as well. So you're much better ignoring that and just doing your own little post on it's great to start this new role, something like that. And also articles now get, the reach of them is much lower than it used to be. That isn't to say you shouldn't do them at all, but I think if your entire strategy is posting articles on LinkedIn, you're probably not getting the reach you could do if you reformat that content into another format. And hashtags, some people don't use any, some use far too many, but the sweet spot seems to be around 3 to 5 per post. LinkedIn's really good because once you finish writing your post, it will suggest a few for you automatically anyway, so it's really easy to just pick 3, 4, 5 to drop in there. This is a big one, and I, as a copywriter, find this very difficult, but avoid editing your post in the first 10 minutes because, again, LinkedIn will absolutely hammer your reach for it. So if you write a post, try and get someone else to check it to make sure there isn't any typos or anything in there where you haven't made any big mistakes. Publish it up there. If you do see a typo, it might be hard enough to do it, but try and avoid it for the first 10 minutes or delete it and try it again later if it's a really bad mistake. Similarly, being the first one to comment can also really hamper your reach as well. And be consistent. I've mentioned the momentum piece quite a bit already, but if you take a break of 4 weeks or more, and your next 3 or 4 posts will reach 35% less people than you post previously. So I think you could do loads of good work, go on holiday for a month, and then come back and your reach can absolutely bomb. So thankfully LinkedIn have recently brought in the scheduling post option, so you could do a batch of content and schedule it to go out for while you're away, which should hopefully help to combat this. So a few final takeaways then. I think for me, I've mentioned momentum a lot. If you want to do this, you really need to commit to it and know it's going to be for longer term, or medium and longer term, and you need momentum to make sure that works. Patience, again, don't be disheartened if it doesn't fly immediately. Just you're committing to it for that period and just be yourself with it as well. I think authenticity is probably the key thing that stands. Everyone is doing well on LinkedIn. The fact that they're authentically themselves is probably the main factor in it. So I think don't try and be someone you know, publish content that people who know you would expect to come from you. So thank you very much. Obviously, I've been talking about LinkedIn, so there's a QR code there so you can find my profile. If you've got any questions, please drop me a message. And I think I've now tipped it over, so I think more people in the UK now have a podcast than don't. We launched our first podcast this week called Present Thoughts, talking about all things B2B, and if you've got my LinkedIn, the first episode is that. So thank you very much.